G'day everyone, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I want to talk to you about pelvic floor dysfunction and more importantly, the cause of a lot of pelvic floor dysfunction that I don't think a lot of people are picking up on in the industry. And I think it's really important for a number of reasons because pelvic floor dysfunction isn't just the domain of the elderly in terms of incontinence or erectile dysfunction. Clearly there's a lot of people sort of post and pre-pregnancy who have pelvic floor dysfunction. There's a lot of guys who have pelvic floor dysfunction, whether it's erectile dysfunction or whatever. But also there's exertional pelvic floor dysfunction where we have athletes who work really hard, they strain really hard, and they may wet themselves in the process. And sometimes this is looked at as a badge of honor where you work so hard that you wet yourself. But ultimately it's a signal to you that your pelvic floor isn't doing what it should be doing. And what I want to go through in this video is there's a really quick, simple idea and a test that you can do to figure out whether your pelvic floor is being shut down and being deactivated when it shouldn't be. And then obviously towards the end of the video, we're going to touch on two really simple exercises that will hopefully help correct that underlying cause so that your pelvic floor can do what it's designed to do. So getting straight into it, the thing that I think is missed a lot in the industry is the orientation of the pelvis. So we see with a lot of people that a lot of people tend to be overly anteriorly tilted through their pelvis. And what we know is that the body functions best when it's in its best position or its best anatomical shape. So if your pelvic bowl or your pelvic rim is supposed to be relatively neutral, if we're consistently anteriorly tilted, twisting that pelvis downwards, then we're inhibiting that pelvic floor function. So a lot of people who have incontinence, who have general pelvic floor dysfunction, even some erectile dysfunction, they have a pelvis which is unnecessarily anteriorly tilted, which basically the weakness of your pelvic floor may not specifically be a true weakness where those muscles just aren't strong enough, but they may be being inhibited by being in a bad position. So muscles don't function at their best if they're not in their best position. So the next thing is being attacked by an ant. The next thing that we want to talk about is how to find that good position. So if you're thinking that you're someone who is anteriorly tilted or you want to figure this out for yourself, the easiest thing to do is to stand up with your feet straight and then squeeze your butt cheeks as tight as you can. And what you'll find is as you squeeze those glutes, that pelvis will tilt backwards if it is anteriorly tilted. In a perfect world, you'll be standing with your feet straight, you'll squeeze your butt cheeks and nothing will change. If that's you, that's fantastic. Then maybe this isn't the cause of your pelvic floor dysfunction. But for most people, we're going to see that squeezing those butt cheeks is going to gently tilt that pelvis backwards. So the next question that we want to sort of ask and then answer is, why is that pelvis anteriorly tilted? Because again, everything has to happen for a reason. Dysfunction just doesn't occur. It's not age related, it's not activity related in a lot of cases. There's something that we've introduced into the mix that's abnormal, that's asks something to change. And for most people, the underlying cause of an anteriorly tilted pelvis is tightness through the front of the hips. Those hip flexors, the hip joint capsule, any of those anterior structures are tight. And what they do is as they tighten, they pull the top of the pelvic bowl down and then basically jam up the tissue at the back. You can switch off your pelvic floor muscles. So one of the best ways to sort of re-engage this and re-engage your pelvic floor muscles is to actually free up the tissue at the front. And the way to do that can be really, really simple. So ideally what we want to get you to do, you can do this kneeling, you can do it standing, however you want to do this, is we just want to do your basic hip flexor stretch. It's not fancy, it's not sexy, but we want to be up nice and tall, squeeze your butt cheek, and what we want to do is we want to gently shift your hips forwards, maintaining a vertical spine. So we're not arching backwards, we're not leaning forwards, we're trying to stay up nice and tall, visualize that hip crease at the front, opening up as your hips and back and shoulders translate forward at the same time. We're looking for some tightness at the front there. And the way that I like to get you to do this is make sure that butt cheek is squeezed to put your hip in a good position, open up the front of that hip, and then what I'll get you to do is imagine that you're dropping your knee down and forwards, sort of dragging that knee forwards. And what you'll find is those hip muscles will tense up. And this is easily one of the best ways to get tight hip flexors to release, is to activate them for a few seconds, then relax, then go a little bit further into the stretch. Same thing again, push down and forwards, sort of scoop a little bit. There's another ant coming close to me here. And then what we'll basically get you to do is squeeze that tissue, activate that tissue. Then when you relax, you should find there's a little bit more range of motion to move with. And then what you should hopefully find is when you recheck your pelvic position again, when you're up nice and tall, feet straight, if you squeeze your butt cheek again, you might find that that tissue doesn't feel as anteriorly tilted as it would have previously. So by opening up that tissue at the front, it allows that pelvis to sit in a better position, which allows your pelvic floor muscles to function better. So again, it's an underrated part of pelvic floor dysfunction. So please make sure that you can get attacked by ants. They're big ones too. The next thing I want you to do basically is when we create better pelvic positioning, so when you squeeze your glutes, we can create that better pelvic shape. So the main thing that we want to get you to do here, apologies for this, the main thing that we want to get you to do is when we're standing straight, we can cultivate a great pelvic position by externally rotating our knees and our legs to make sure, so obviously you can see this probably better in standing, is with our feet relatively straight, screwing those knees out really engages the glutes and sets that pelvic position a little bit better than previously. So one of the things we can do to help cultivate that, if your hip external rotators are functioning really well, then it's easy for you to cultivate a better pelvic position when you squeeze your glutes and you rotate those knees out. So we want to make sure that we give you an exercise to make that easier to do. And a really good way to do that is via the pigeon stretch. So again, you can do this up on a seat or a bench. You don't have to do this on the ground. But essentially it's just an external rotated position of the hip. So if you start in this position, all you need to do is take your knee down as far as you feel comfortable. So you might only get to here. Again, if you're up on something, you might find that this position is easy to get into. But again, I'm here, so we'll do it in this position. So I'm gonna drop that bottom knee down and then hold this position for a little bit. You should feel the muscles in the back pocket area start to get tight. You wanna make sure that you squeeze those muscles, push your foot down, push your leg down into the ground, hold that position for a few seconds, relax, see if you can drop down a little bit deeper, give it another good squeeze, relax, hold that position for a few seconds, and keep dropping down and dropping down. And what you'll find hopefully is that by freeing up the front of those hips, freeing up the back of those hips with those external rotators, it will allow you to be in a better position pelvically, which will then allow your pelvic floor to function better. So any pelvic floor exercises that you're doing, any specific pelvic floor treatments that you're having will hopefully become a lot more effective because the conditioning or the system that pelvic floor is functioning in has been upregulated and functioning better. So hopefully that helps. Make sure that you let us know in the comments below. I've made it out alive. These ants haven't got the best of me, but the important thing is please think of your pelvic floor as a bigger issue than just a pelvic floor issue, and hopefully that'll set you on the path to fixing those complaints. So as always, please leave a like, let me know how you went with the video, and consider subscribing to the channel if you're new, just so you get more fantastic content, ant-related content down the track. But I appreciate you stopping by, and we'll see you soon. Bye.